As highly requested by y'all over on Instagram when I asked last week about what you wanted to hear on the podcast, here is Kat's 2023 year in review. This is a story that I have been wanting to share with y'all in its entirety over the year, but of course couldn't because we were still going through the process of it. And also, I feel as though so many of the lessons that I'm going to share with you in today's podcast episode have only truly just landed for me in the past month to 3 months. So today's podcast episode is going to be all about my year, this past year, the journey that I've been on, the ups, the downs, the changes, the breakdowns, the absolute mayhem, and also the coming together, the coming home, the creation, the community, everything that I have manifested. So if you are ready to go on a journey with me, and if you want to know a little bit of the behind the scenes of what this year was actually like for me, then this is the podcast episode for you. What's up, and welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, the podcast that demystifies all of the nonsense that surrounds manifestation and gives you a realistic view of what it's like to be on a personal, professional, and spiritual growth journey. I'm your host, Kat Kozad, manifestation and money mindset expert, and I'm so happy you're here. Let's fucking do this thing. Y'all, I will be completely honest. 2023 was completely different than anything that I would have ever expected for myself. And landing where I am now in the last month of the year, I can say that I am so grateful for this year. I'm so grateful for the lessons that it taught me and where it brought me. But man, oh man, was it a year for my belief system, for my embodiment, for all of the things that I show up and I talk about to y'all on the podcast. And before we even dig into it, I just want to say that I'm a firm believer in the fact that we all go through periods of time that are challenging so that we can build the muscles that are necessary for us to receive what it is that we actually desire or something greater. So this year has been a big year of building those muscles inside of myself and honestly just like anchoring even further down into my truth and returning home to who I am at my core, because I definitely got disconnected from that for a period of time, and that was necessary as well. I'm not saying any of this to make it bad or wrong or negative, but instead just a permission slip for all of us, no matter where you are on your journey, no matter what life looks like for you right now, no matter what's going to change for you in the future, because if we're being honest, that's the only thing that we can guarantee is that things will change. So with that being said, in today's podcast episode, like I said, we're going to be talking about 2023. What a year for me. And I'm going to give y'all the story of what 2023 has looked like for me. But before we dive into that, I want to let you know that I have officially released a brand new opportunity for all of you to be a part of. And this is something that I am beyond excited about. So as of today, you can officially join the Mindset and Manifestation Inner Circle. So the Mindset and Manifestation Inner Circle, also going to be called MMC for short, so that we're not just tongue twisting ourselves this entire time. But MMC is a low-cost membership group. It is only $27 a month. There's no commitment. You can cancel at any time. And the purpose of this community, the purpose of this membership group is to be able to be in a community of like-minded people who are on the same journey to become the highest and greatest, best versions of themselves. Because I don't know about you guys, but the thing that I have learned, especially this year, is that being on your manifestation journey and creating the success, the results, the things that you desire in your life is all well and good. But when you don't have a community of people to celebrate with you, or if you don't have a community of people to help you stay consistent, to stay the course, to continue to up level, then this whole thing can feel a little challenging. It can feel a little daunting. It can feel a little sad, a little lonely. So inside of MMC, there's 3 major components that you get. First one is the community aspect. Not only do you have an opportunity to ask me questions, ask me for support, but you also are being immersed in a community of other people who are on this same manifestation journey. This is all of those people out there that you wish you could find in your actual personal life and bringing them into one space online so that you have this online community. And one of the coolest things that I know will come together as this community grows is that a lot of these people are going to live nearby you. So you're actually going to have the ability to connect with other people who are on this journey and are using intentional manifestation to create the lives that they want for themselves. So there is a community feed where you are able to interact with me as well as the other members. There is a classroom section where there are incredible video resources, different trainings and modules that I have put in for you to really get started on your manifestation journey, as well as meet yourself wherever you are at, whether you are a beginner or a seasoned expert, to continue to expand and grow, as well as monthly rotating courses. So currently inside of MMC, we are doing a 5-part mini course to help you set yourself up for success to manifest your best life in 2024. And that is going to be taking place only inside of MMC. All of these mini courses that I am creating for you will only live inside of this community. And if you're wanting to get in on them, then you got to come and join us. But the last aspect of this is that there are also 2 monthly group coaching calls with me. So if you've been wanting the opportunity to do any coaching with me, but maybe you haven't had the financial ability to do so, or you haven't been ready to take the full leap of faith into joining one of my programs, then joining MMC is one of the most powerful ways that you can get that, because you'll be able to have that same sort of group interaction with me on Zoom twice a month. And for all of these things, like I said, it's only $27 a month. So there's absolutely no risk and you can cancel at any time. So I want you to think about that in terms of what you also spend $27 a month on, perhaps Starbucks coffee, perhaps an Uber, perhaps takeout 1 day a week. It's as simple as that. I'm not telling you to get rid of those things. All I'm saying is that you joining MMC for $27 a month is one of the most powerful things that you can do to enrich your life and have it be something that just makes sense for you financially. So if you are wanting and you are ready to join MMC, you can click the link down below in the show notes and you will be able to access it directly. As soon as you enter your information, you'll have access to the community and you can start to engage not only with me, but also with the other members. So with that being said, let's actually dive into my year in review. So I know I've already said it, but 2023 was really the year of coming home to myself. And what I mean by this is that when I first started out the year, back in January, I was very much so in this place where, if I'm being completely honest, I felt really cocky. I felt like I was on top of the world. I had just moved back to New York City. I had just scored my dream apartment. I was completely thriving in my business. Every single thing in my personal life was starting to align. And I was really in this energy. I took a girls' trip back in the end of January of this year. And I said to the girls, okay, I'm just not available for any bad vibes this year. Like, I'm not available for anything except for fun and play and continuing for life to feel easy and exciting. And about a week after that, it was my birthday, my 27th birthday. And again, I was on top of the world. I felt like nothing could touch me. And a week after that, I started to notice this really, really uncomfortable energy start to settle in inside of my life. And I didn't want to look at it. I just wanted to avoid it. It didn't feel good. It felt like those bad vibes that I was talking about that I was unavailable for. And so I tried to push it away. And in the past, I tried to push things away with alcohol and drugs and partying and working my ass off and just kind of numbing out. And as y'all know, if you listen to the podcast, I don't party anymore in the way that I used to. I don't use drugs. I don't drink alcohol. And so I was left with this very, very uncomfortable energy. And what I decided to do instead was watch a shit ton of Netflix and a shit ton of TikTok and eat a bunch of food that made me feel like shit. And after about a week and a half of this, I was like, oh my God, I feel terrible. I should take some of my own medicine and listen to what I tell my clients to do and sit down with my journal and start to unpack whatever is here. And so as I did that, I started to unpack what was there. I realized that I was questioning everything. I realized that I was feeling some sort of deep dissatisfaction, didn't know what it was, couldn't consciously put the finger on it, but I was experiencing this deep dissatisfaction and I had no clue what to do with it. So I just started to question everything. I started to question what I was doing, why I was doing it, why I had my business, why I was trying to make this impact on the world, if I was in it for the right reasons. I started to question if I wanted to live in New York City, why I was here in the first place, and if everything that I had created for myself over the past 4 years was just a big old lie, or if it was what I actually wanted. And I shared a bit of this back on the podcast back over the summer. So if this sounds familiar to you, that's why. But essentially I had this sort of like manic breakdown, I've been calling it, where I was racing in my head, but it felt like my body couldn't move. It felt like I wanted to run 1,000,000 miles a minute, but my body was going absolutely nowhere. And so I felt super uncomfortable in this. And although I felt super uncomfortable in it, there was still this deep intuitive message that kept on coming through for me that on the other side of this, everything was going to be better than I could have ever imagined. And even in the midst of all of that, I had this dream where one of my best friends came to me and she said that things are going to look different than I could have ever imagined them to be, but they're going to be better than I could have ever imagined for them to be. So although I was in this very uncomfortable phase, I just kind of allowed it to take over. I allowed myself to fully experience it, fully surrender to it. And as that haze was starting to lessen in terms of the discomfort surrounding it, I felt as though I was coming out the other side and wanted to completely change everything about my life. So I came to this moment where I was like, okay, something has to change. My life doesn't feel sustainable right now. I think I'm going to start a new business. Now, looking back in hindsight, I can tell you that I started to build out this new business because it was just another escape mechanism. It wasn't me actually looking at the core issue or what was causing this discomfort in the first place, but it's always been one of my safety mechanisms to throw myself into work as hard as I possibly could. So I started to build a new business. I started to build a completely different company. And this company was all about alcohol-free living. It was about being able to connect people. It was about events. It was about spreading this message of either completely reducing your alcohol intake or just reducing it in whatever capacity that felt good to you. But at that time, that's what felt the most alive inside of me. And for about 3 months, I didn't take on any coaching clients whatsoever because I knew that if I was to take on coaching clients during that time, it wouldn't be fair to them. So I completely stopped the flow inside of my coaching business to pour all of myself into creating a new company. And I literally got this company to the point that it was ready to launch. Like I was literally ready to publicly announce my new company, but I told myself I was going to take 1 week off to reset and recharge before I did so because I was feeling a bit burnt out. I was feeling this inner anxiety, this intuitive like, like don't do this, but my mind kept on pushing forward. And during this week off, I went to a transformational breathwork class. And in this transformational breathwork class, I came in with the intention of courage. And I thought that courage meant the courage to push forward, to launch this new company, to deep dive into the unknown and start something completely new. And as I was in that transformational breathwork session, the message that came through for me was that I didn't want to do that I didn't want to girl boss anymore, that I didn't want to push, I didn't want to hustle, I didn't want to start a new company. I just actually wanted to soften deeper and deeper into myself and deeper into my truth. And man, oh man, did that derail the plans that I had started to put into place for myself. Man, oh man, did that derail the path that I thought I was heading down and put me at a complete standstill to where I actually had to start to address that discomfort that I was experiencing at the beginning of the year. And so I started to go back to that. I started to go back to that discomfort that I was experiencing at the beginning of the year. And I was like, okay, well, if it's not starting a new business, then something else has to change. This discomfort that I've been experiencing is coming from somewhere. So that means it must be my physical environment. That means that it must be New York City. And so for another few weeks period of time, I got myself into this mental state of, I can't live in New York anymore. New York is not the place for me. I get so stressed out here. I get so burnt out here. Like, New York can't be it. And as y'all know and hear me talk about, the story that we tell ourselves about our lives is what manifests. Because when you start to project a story out about your life, then your brain starts to confirm that to be true. So for me, taking New York, this place that I love with my whole heart, and starting to turn it into this gross, grungy, dark, hard place for me to live, then that's how my brain started to perceive New York, and that's how I started to feel about it, because all of our beliefs are self-fulfilling prophecies. So I start to look at New York in this way, and I really start to struggle with New York. And so I decided to go home to Colorado for a lot of the summer. While I was there, continue to confirm to myself that New York wasn't the place for me to be. And if New York wasn't the place for me to be, I didn't want to move home. I didn't necessarily feel this calling to move anywhere else in the US. So I decided that I should move to London, because if you do not know, I'm a dual citizen to the UK. My mom is British, and it felt like a quote unquote easy move to still give me the city aspect of what I was wanting, but also perhaps pair it in with a bit more of the nature and things that I feel as though sometimes I am lacking in New York City. And so I made the decision that I was going to move to London. And for months, I kept that decision mostly to myself. Just a few people in my life knew about it. But then I started to share it more and more. I continued to tell myself that this was it for me, that in order for things to get better, I needed to leave. In order for me to feel better about my life, I needed to leave. I needed to go somewhere else. I needed to start over again. And I don't know if you guys are seeing the pattern here. But that's exactly what I was doing with my business at the beginning of the year as well. And so when I got back from Colorado to New York, I let go of all of these expectations, all of these stories that I was placing on New York. And I said to myself, okay, Kat, if you only have a few months left here, then you need to give it your all. You decided to move to New York City for a reason, and you owe it to yourself to fully show up for New York in that way. And so I did. And in that time, I started to experience the most abundance, the most connection, the most love, the most support that I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I was feeling so happy, yet at the exact same time, it felt so bittersweet, because I had already made this decision that I was going to move to London. And as the time approached for me to move to London, I was feeling so hesitant about it, but was having a hard time admitting that to other people as well as myself, and let that manifest in the way of just avoiding the steps that I needed to take in order to make London a reality. Meaning like booking an Airbnb for me to live in, figuring out what needed to be transferred in terms of my business and bank accounts and phones and all of those sorts of things. And I went through this period of time, and y'all, this is a TMI, but here on the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, we do it anyways. So I'm very, very deeply connected to my body, and I'm very, very deeply connected to my intuition. And when I was going through these different phases throughout the year, especially this decision surrounding London, I got constipated for the first time in my entire life. And if you follow me over on Instagram, I made like a parody reel about this recently where it says like POV, you're hanging out with the weird spiritual friend. And one of them is like, oh my God, dude, I'm constipated right now. It must mean that my intuition is blocked. But this is literally something that I experienced. So I had never been constipated in my entire life. And the week that I was like, okay, Kat, you need to book your Airbnb in London, you need to solidify that plan, I became constipated. And so I stopped. And I'm one of those people that's like, before I think about any of the science behind why I could be experiencing something, I think about what is the spiritual reason that I am experiencing that thing. And so for me, I was like, okay, constipation equals gut, gut equals intuition. Intuition is blocked because nothing is moving right now. So I was like, okay, my intuition is blocked right now. Maybe I shouldn't make any decisions. And so I waited and I waited. And one day I received a text message from one of my cousins who used to live in London for a long period of time. And I told her that I was planning on moving over there. And she was like, okay, Kat, you should go check out this neighborhood, and this neighborhood. And once she sent me that message, I was like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. Like I should book a trip over there, go suss out the neighborhoods, make sure that the one that I'm booking an Airbnb in is the one that I want to be in, and everything will be fine and dandy after that. And as soon as I did that, I was no longer constipated. But then I made the decision to go over there and check out these different neighborhoods. And while I was there, I definitely enjoyed my time, but there was still something intuitively inside of me that was like, Kat, this isn't it. But I kept on silencing that voice because I had already made the commitment to myself that I was going to do that. But upon returning to New York City, as soon as I landed at JFK, I felt this relief wash over my body. I was so happy to be back in New York. But as I was taking the taxi from JFK to my apartment in Manhattan, I started to get this really sharp pain in the middle of my chest, right around my heart space. I was like, oh God, what is happening? Like, why am I experiencing this right now? And as soon as I got back to my building and walked into my apartment and looked out over the skyline that you can see from my windows, I just started to sob. I started to cry my eyes out. I went over and sat in the windowsill, and I literally said out loud to myself, I am making the biggest mistake right now. And over the next few days after coming back from London, I was really just trying to talk myself out of that feeling that I got when I initially got back here. Again, trying to silence that intuitive feeling that I knew was there. And got to the point where I was like, okay, what if I didn't do this? What if I changed my mind? What if I actually listened to whatever my intuition is trying to tell me right now, as opposed to try and run away from it like I have been a lot of this year? And that's when I started to feel so completely empowered by the decision of staying in New York and recognizing that maybe at the beginning of the year, when I said to myself that things needed to be so completely different than how they were in the past, it wasn't actually in my business and it wasn't actually in my location, but instead it was just inside of my energy. It was no longer this cocky energy of feeling like the top dog and making myself look like the top dog, but instead returning back to the humble, kind of weird, kind of cool girl who didn't need to buff herself up to be anything that she's not. And return home to this feeling of being a safe space for people, of being a home, creating a community that feels just like a big hug, because that's what I've always wanted, and that's how I've always actually wanted to be. But again, I feel as though for a period of time, I just got so disconnected from that. And there was a lot of cockiness, which again, isn't bad or wrong. I feel as though it was necessary for me to go through this season of cockiness to kind of build myself up and see myself as such a powerful light. But it wasn't what felt so fully authentic to me. And so I've made the decision that I'm staying in New York City. And since then, my life has never been better. I've never felt more connected. I've never had more love. I've never just felt like a better version of myself than I do now. And I believe that so much of this comes from my willingness, one, to break the pattern that I used to play out in the past, which was this pattern of leaving as soon as things were getting good, or leaving before I could get my heart broken by something. So like I said earlier on in the year, almost walking away from my coaching business to start something else because I felt as though maybe I had capped out or this wasn't the path that I was supposed to be on. But recommitting to my business and coming back to it from this energy of, I really just want to show up and be that home for you guys. I want to show up and be relatable. I want to show up and be honest and vulnerable and not act like I have my shit together all the time, because after this podcast episode, y'all know that I don't. But really just creating this level of authenticity and this level of relatability in my story and who I am and what I can share and offer to all of you, because I know I've said it in the past, but truly, I'm no one special. I'm a girl from a tiny town in Colorado who used to raise goats, who has always had this like vision and this knowing inside of myself that I am capable of so much, but really got disconnected from that along the way and have just been on this journey of returning home to myself. And in the process of that, creating this home, creating this safe space for y'all to understand that you can do it as well. Truly, if I can do it, you can do it. And I know, I say that, but I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And that's why I feel like it's so important for me to show up as authentically as I possibly can, to share the not so pretty sides of my story, to not just show up and be like, okay, well, I'm incredible because I've done this and that, and look at this flashy thing, and look at this experience. And all of those things are incredible. I'm so grateful that I have had the opportunity to manifest the luxury and the flashy and the fun things that I've manifested over the past few years. And I will continue to manifest those things into my life. But ultimately, at the end of the day, none of this is about me. But I feel like when I first started my business, I made it about me because I was in survival mode. I was in a place that I needed it. I needed things to change for myself. And again, there is nothing bad or wrong about that. If you are in that place right now that it is about you and you need it to be about you so that you can get to the other side of where you are at right now, then I see you. I love you. I honor you for that because I was there as well. But it's not about me anymore. And when I was still trying to make it about me, that's when I felt disconnected from my business. But coming in with this energy of recommitment, what I've realized in this energy of like, yeah, I can do whatever I want. I'm thriving. I'm free in every single aspect of my life, is that it's not about me. It's about you guys. It's about our world. It's about making an impact. And since I have recommitted to my business from that energy, I've never felt more inspired. I've never loved my clients more, and that is current clients and past clients. I have never felt more aligned inside of what I am doing, and I am so excited to continue to share my message in new ways and in ways that make you feel like this is a safe space for you to explore, for you to understand yourself deeper, for you to have fun, for you to play, for you to see the power of intentional manifestation play out in your life. And in recommitting to New York, it was the same deal. As I was going to walk away from this garden. Y'all know that I love a garden analogy, but this garden that I have been taking time to plant seeds and tend to and water on a daily basis for the past 2.5 years. And if I was to leave, it would be walking away from the garden right as the flowers were about to bloom and right as some of the flowers are blooming. Because I've always had this sneaky protection mechanism where I think the grass is greener on the other side. But this year, especially these two major moments with my business and almost leaving New York, I've broken the pattern of believing that the grass is greener on the other side. Because the grass is greener where you water it. And man, oh man, do I love watering it here. And through the energy of recommitment to New York, I've also recommitted to being the highest, greatest, best, hottest, happiest, healthiest, wealthiest version of myself. And like I said, life has felt absolutely magical since then. I've felt like it's less of a matter of doing and pushing and forcing, and more of this beautiful, delicious, feminine magnetism that I talk about on the podcast of really just being and allowing these experiences to come into my life as a byproduct of that. And so in all, 2023 has humbled the fuck out of me. 2023 brought me to my knees, led me to breakdowns, challenged the fuck out of me in so many ways, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, because this year was the year for me to come back home to myself, recommit to myself, to you, to my dreams, to the impact that I want to make on the world and I will make on the world, and to really just soften, honestly, which is hilarious because walking into the year, my only intention, I literally only set one intention for this year because I was like, okay, I want the universe to kind of show me this year what it is that I am going to accomplish and create and so on and so forth. It wasn't like it had been in the past years where I was like, okay, I want to manifest X amount of dollars and this amount of this. I walked into the year with the intention of softening, and the universe delivered that. The universe delivered the perfect, turbulent, chaotic circumstances for me to be broken down so that I could soften in a way that feels so sustainable to me. And in that softening, I want to say it's like I'm still just as powerful, even more powerful than I was before, because there's just so much more trust. There's this completely different energy behind everything that I am doing in the world now. And I truly just feel like a completely different person. I know that a lot of you have reached out to me over this year and have said, Kat, like you can tell just from the tone of your voice, you can tell just from the way that you talk and show up on the podcast that like you are glowing, like you are a completely different woman than you were when you first started all of this. And that's the truth. Who I was when I first started this year is completely different than who I am today. Who I was 6 months ago is completely different than who I am today. Who I was 3 months ago is completely different than who I am today. And that is the beauty, as well as I believe the reality of being on an intentional manifestation journey, is that you go through so many different iterations of self. You go through so many different experiences to honestly just complete this puzzle of your life. You're placing pieces in one at a time, and sometimes it can feel like you don't know what the picture is in the puzzle that you're creating. But other times when you're in your flow and you're reconnecting to what your truth is, it feels as though there's a lot of pieces that you're plugging in all at once, or just appreciating the picture that is. But that is 2023 in review. There's obviously many other things and moments that happened along the way, and there's, even within these experiences and stories that I shared with you, so many other things. But I'm very grateful for the patterns that were broken this year, for who I've become as a byproduct of it, and for what's to come. Because I know that with all of the lessons that I've learned this year in 2023, that 2024 is just going to be even more incredible than I could imagine. I truly believe the better it gets, the better it gets. So there you have it, 2023 in review for me. And obviously we also still have this entire month, so we'll see what else happens. But just want to remind all of you that if you want to be a part of what I'm talking about, this home, this safe space that I've really put so much intentional energy into creating, then joining the Mindset and Manifestation Inner Circle is the perfect place for you. Again, it's only $27 a month. It's something that's so accessible to any and everybody. And I have made it my personal mission with this group to make it the most transformative and powerful community that you can be a part of when it comes to understanding intentional manifestation and using the laws of the universe to change your life. So it's going to be good. I hope to see you on the inside. I hope you have the desire to become an insider, but know that that is available to you down below in the show notes. And I hope y'all liked this story. I hope it made sense. And if it didn't, definitely let me know. I'm happy to share more from this if any of this resonated with you. But with that being said, I'll stop talking now. I will talk with you on the next one, and I'm sending you all of my love.